Okay, so are you a cat person? Someone who loves those furry, independent creatures? Well, today's deep dive is going to be fascinating. We're really going to get into the minds of cats. We're looking at some new research, some scientific studies, even some stories from animal shelters. It's really going to challenge those ideas we have about cats.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We often think we know so much about animals, especially the ones we live with, but often we're really just buying into these popular narratives about them instead of like actual science.
Totally. Like that whole thing about cats being these loners who just put up with us for food and a head scratch every now and then. Turns out it might be a lot more complicated than that. We've got some research here that's showing that cats actually form really deep, really secure attachments to their humans.
Way deeper than you might expect. Like there was one study we looked at, right? It actually compared how cats bond with their owners with how dogs bond with their owners, and get this, even how human babies bond with their parents. And what they found was pretty surprising.
Okay, I gotta ask, are we talking about like full on my human is my rock kind of attachment here?
Exactly. The researchers used this thing called the secure base test, and basically they'd put a cat in a room it didn't know with its owner. Then the owner leaves and comes back, and they watch how the cat reacts to all of this.
So it's kind of like a trust fall, but with more meowing?
Yeah, pretty much. And
Yeah.
a lot less falling, hopefully.
Right.
But the whole idea is a secure attachment. It means that the cat sees their owner as a safe haven. They might explore a bit, check things out, but they'll always be checking in with their human, making sure they're still there.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty amazing. And when the owner leaves, yeah, things can get a little dramatic, let me tell you.
Oh, tell me about it. My cat, the second I leave the room, she acts like it's the end of the world, right? And then the second I get back, nothing. She just goes right back to being the ice queen, like nothing even happened.
Oh, yeah, that's classic. But that's exactly what I mean, right? Those reactions, they actually show us just how much they need that bond, that sense of security. And it's not just some mushy feeling. This is a real need that affects their well-being. It's important.
So we're talking a measurable effect on their stress levels, how they
Yeah.
deal with new things, all of that.
Yeah, all of it. And that's what makes this all so interesting,
Oh.
because it makes us rethink how we see cats behaving. We often think their whole independent thing means they don't need us. But this research is saying, actually, that's not really true at all.
Wow. It's like we haven't been speaking cat this whole time. Like we're misinterpreting them, thinking they're aloof when they're really saying like, I got you,
Mm.
as long as you got me.
Yeah, exactly. And getting that attachment right is really just the beginning. Once we really start to understand how cats communicate, how they think, you realize just how complicated, how nuanced they are.
Okay, so we've established that cats aren't just like furry roommates who steal our blankets, right? They can form these really strong bonds, rely on us. But let's be real for a sec. Anyone who's ever had a cat knows how hard they can be to read. Am I right?
Totally. They're masters of subtlety. You're not going to get those big, dramatic, emotional displays you would with a dog.
Yeah, you're not gonna get those puppy dog eyes. More like feed me or else eyes.
Exactly. It's all about those subtle cues with cats. And there's a reason for it. Dogs. They evolved those expressions to communicate with us, right? Cats. They didn't really need to. Out in the wild, they didn't need us to read their every emotion to survive.
Wow. So they evolved other ways to communicate with us, to understand us. Like what?
Well, like their ability to follow our gaze.
Yeah.
You know, studies show they're actually really good at it, even better than dogs in some cases. It really makes you think, huh? I mean, if they're watching us that closely, what else are they picking up on? Makes you wonder.
Okay, that's kind of amazing, but also a little creepy. Like, how much are they really understanding? Are they judging all my choices? Like, what I'm wearing, my taste in snacks?
Haha, maybe. But really, though, it shows us that there's a lot more going on in their brains than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
They're not just like reacting to us being there. They're trying to figure us out, understand what we're doing.
Like little furry detectives gathering information. I like it.
Right. And it gets even wilder. So there was this one study where they played recordings of owners' voices, right?
Hmm.
But they moved the speaker around to different spots in the room. And guess what? When the voice moved too fast, like it was teleporting or something, the cast actually showed surprise. Like their ears would twitch, they'd turn their heads. It's like they had a mental map of where their owner should be in the room, and it was messing with their system.
Wait, seriously, they're not just following our eyes, they're making a whole sound map of where we are in the house.
I knew it. I always knew my cat had, like, a sixth sense or something. It really is incredible, isn't it? It
Yeah.
makes you think twice about how smart they are, how they communicate.
Totally. It's like we're finally cracking the code. Speaking of codes, let's talk about those health benefits I mentioned before, because honestly, who hasn't felt instantly better after a good cuddle with a cat?
Right. And that feeling,
Yeah.
totally backed up by science, it's not all in your head. Researchers really have looked at what happens to our bodies when we interact with cats.
Okay, so less anecdotes, more hard data. Give me the science.
So they took a bunch of cat owners and had them hang out with their cats while they measured their heart rate and blood pressure. And then they did the same thing with people who were meeting unfamiliar cats for the first time. And while both groups got a nice little reduction in their stress levels from being with the cats,
I bet it gets better.
it does. The effect was way stronger for the cat owners, meaning that bond, that shared history, it really seems to make a difference.
So it's not just about any cat, it's got to be your cat. That connection, that understanding you share, it's like a superpower against stress. I knew there was a reason I put up with all the hairballs and the midnight zoomies.
Exactly. It's like building that strong bond isn't just good for them. It actually benefits us too. It's a total win-win.
Okay, you've convinced me. Cats are the best. We need to forget everything we thought we knew. But, and this is a big but, what about all the cats out there who don't have those bonds? I'm talking about the cats living on the streets, facing all kinds of dangers.
That's such an important thing to talk about. We're here talking about how amazing it is to have a cat, how strong that bond can be, but there are literally millions of cats out there with no safe place to go, no one to rely on. Just in the U.S. alone, they think there might be as many as 100 million feral cats.
100 million. Seriously? Wow, that's a lot of cats. No wonder people have such different ideas about how to handle that. What are some of the challenges?
Well, on the one hand, you've got groups like Alley Cat Allies who are like all about protecting those vulnerable animals. They're the ones out there highlighting the very real dangers feral cats face every day. Things like starvation, disease, getting hit by cars, not to mention cruelty from humans, which is just awful.
It's heartbreaking to think about, just trying to survive in those conditions.
It really is. And that's why a lot of people are big supporters of these trap, neuter, return programs, TNR. They basically trap the feral cats, get them spayed or neutered so there aren't more kittens born into those tough situations, and then release them back to their colonies.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, but I'm guessing not everyone's on board with that, right?
You're right. It's a really complex issue, and people feel very strongly about it. Some people argue that TNR programs just aren't effective enough in bringing down the number of feral cats out there, and others are worried about what it means for local wildlife.
So you've got to balance protecting the cats with protecting the environment. Not easy.
Exactly. And then there's the whole question of money and public perception. TNR programs, they need funding, they need volunteers, they need people to get behind them, which can be tough because a lot of people see feral cats as more of a nuisance than anything else. They don't necessarily see them as, these living beings that deserve our compassion.
It's like there's no easy answer when it comes to feral cats.
You're telling me. It's complicated. But I think the more we understand the complexities, the different sides of the issue, the more we can have these conversations and hopefully start working towards solutions that consider the cats and the environment.
It really makes you think. We always talk about being a cat person or a dog person, like it's, I don't know, like picking a team or something, but it's bigger than that, right? This affects everyone, whether you share your home with a cat or just see them around the neighborhood.
Absolutely. It's all connected. And look, our understanding of cats, it's changed so much, even just from what we've talked about today. I mean, this idea that they're just these solitary creatures controlled by instinct.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. They form these incredibly strong bonds. They understand the world in these really complex ways. And come on, they basically run the internet now.
Okay, true. Don't forget all those ASMR videos with the purring. My cat's like staring at me right now, wondering when I'm going to put one on for her. But you're right. It's like we're finally seeing them for who they really are. They're these fascinating, complex creatures that deserve our respect, our understanding.
And that understanding is so important because it's not just about appreciating the cats we share our lives with. It's about speaking up for all cats, even the ones who don't have someone to speak up for them.
So what do we do with all this? We've learned so much about how cats think, what they need. How do we use that to make things better for all cats, the ones with homes and the ones without?
That's the million-dollar question. For one, we can start challenging those old stereotypes. Like, we got to stop seeing feral cats as just a nuisance. They're intelligent creatures just trying to survive in a world that we built, honestly.
And for those of us lucky enough to call ourselves cat owners, we can use all this new knowledge to be even better companions to our cats. Give them what they need to really thrive.
Exactly. Whether it's by supporting TNR programs, or making sure our own cats have what they need at home, everyone can do something.
This whole deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.